Hey guys, I'm Billy with Spec Train. Welcome back to Spec Train YouTube channel and our Black Rifle series of videos. Today, we are going to answer one of the most common questions by far that we get about fighting rifles or just kind of rifles and carbines in general, which is, what barrel length should I get?
You're right, and left, and right.
All right, guys, so the barrel length discussion is a big one. There's a ton of variables we could discuss. So if I don't mention your particular barrel length with your particular gas system or whatever you think the easy button is for rifle shooting, I do apologize, right? There's a bunch of different ways we can go with this, but I'm going to try to boil this down, keep it simple and straight to the point. For those of you trying to figure out, hey, I'm looking at buying an AR-15, what barrel length should I look at, okay? Where this discussion starts for me is not with ballistics. It's not with what optic you want to put on it. It's nothing about that. It starts with, how do I want to be able to grip the rifle? Because the barrel length really does determine where my support hand is able to go on the rifle. And we're going to kind of join that with the idea of, is there equipment that needs to be mounted in front of my hand, okay? So obviously I'm not going to do a whole rifle class right now, how to grip the gun and recoil control and all that kind of stuff. But if you come to one of my classes, we'll talk about that. And for me, when I grip the rifle, I like to grip the rifle something like this, with my support hand pretty far out on my rail or my handguard, right? And there's a lot of reasons for this, but it boils down to that it enables me to control recoil on this rifle as best as possible. I don't have to deal with the rifle jumping up into the right all the time. It can just kind of wiggle on target basically when I shoot the gun, even with 5.56. And I have no real issues there. So that's my preference as the shooter. That's how I like to grip the gun, and it enables me to shoot the gun as best as possible. And now with a 16-inch barrel, you'll notice I have room in front of my hand to mount whatever I might need. So this rifle is pretty simple. All I have up here is my tape switch, which is a small compact model, and my mod light. You'll notice that because of my barrel length, I have this mounted in such a way where it's not, up way in front of my muzzle device. It's not taking that beating. It's not going to get dirty. I've shot thousands of rounds with this rifle without cleaning it, without cleaning the light, and you'll notice it's still very, very clear because it's behind the muzzle device, which is not a requirement, but it's cool if you can get it. But imagine if this rifle had some more stuff on it. Maybe I have a laser up here, maybe I have a front sight post, maybe I have a full-length tape switch and then a sight post. I need to have space in front of my hand to mount whatever equipment I require to be on this gun, okay? Again, I don't have much on here, but that's a consideration. So to start with, when I'm thinking about barrel length, I want a barrel length that allows me as a shooter to grip the rifle the way that I want and still have room in front of my hand for whatever equipment has to be there. That would be my first thought to figure out. Then I'm going to weigh that against any parameters I might have which require the rifle to be shorter. So what are some of those things, right? The first thing we're going to talk about is sort of maneuverability, agility with the rifle. That's the number one thing I hear from folks is, hey, I don't like running a 16-inch rifle in a shoot house because it's just so much more awkward and it's slower going, through doorways and that kind of stuff. And I completely understand that argument. However, a couple things I'm going to show you really quickly. Number one, a 16-inch rifle may not be quite as long as you think it is. Okay, so if we look at this, and I have my 16-inch rifle, and I kind of leave my hand out here, and I didn't set this up correctly, so I'm going to go ahead and sling in. Sorry. So if this is where my barrel is currently, and this is where my hand is currently, hopefully you guys can kind of see this on my camera angle. I'm going to leave my hand there. I'm going to drop that hand. I'm going to draw my pistol. And look at where the barrel length of my pistol is. It's essentially in exactly the same spot as my rifle barrel. Now, of course, the argument would be, well, with a pistol, I can break it in so much easier when I'm going through doorways, working around barriers, that kind of thing. And of course, that's the case. anytime we're working with a rifle, we're gonna have to be competent in breaking that down. This is a 16 inch, but even if I had my 10.5 inch or a shorter rifle of that nature, I'm still not gonna be able to just keep this thing mounted up the whole time as I go through doorways and things. I can't fit through a doorway sideways like this. I just can't. I'm gonna have to break the rifle down. I'm either gonna have to go barrel up like so as I go through and punch it back, or I'm gonna have to bring it in, barrel down and bring it back, or I'm gonna have to come in like this and punch out. Those are mainly my three main options for working my rifle around those barriers. The thing to understand is that, again, I have to do that with my 10.5 anytime I go through a doorway, and I'm gonna have to do it with my 16 as well. Now, with my 16, let's say I'm going barrel up, okay? If I have to go barrel up, maybe I can leave my 10.5 here, and I have to bring my 16 here to get to the doorway, right? Am I losing anything at that point when I go to punch the rifle out? I can't really see where I am. If I'm going barrel down, maybe my 10.5 can stay here and my 16 has to go here. Am I losing anything when I go to bring the rifle up? I can't really see that I am. I might lose a little bit if I'm going over the shoulder, okay? I may have a few less barriers that I can fit around, like with this barrel length. But again, I can bring it like back here if I need to and run the rifle here. There's different things that I can do. For the most part, I don't see where having a longer barrel length like a 16 is a massive disadvantage when it comes to working around barriers. Now, the part of the discussion we're not bringing in is, well, what if I'm adding a suppressor, right? Which a lot of people want to do. If I'm adding a suppressor, depending on whether it's like a Surefire Mini or some kind of full-length can that might be up to like 6 inches, that's obviously adding a lot of barrel length. And so if I'm running a 16 and now my suppressor makes it 22 inches, that's a consideration for sure to definitely think about. That's going to add a little bit more, make it a little bit more awkward running through there. So if you're running a suppressor, just keep that in mind when you're thinking about barrel length and working through barriers. So the other main thing is, do I need this rifle to fit in, some kind of, maybe I want it to be a bag gun, I need to fit it in a truck vault, something like that, where length really comes into consideration. That's one of my main use cases that I run this 10.5 for, right? So with this 10.5 inch barrel and my loft folder, I have a super compact package that I can fit in a bag without breaking it down at all, a nice compact bag like the Commuter Sling 2.0. And then when I need it, I simply pull it out, deploy the stock, and I have my rifle ready to go with no other intermediate steps. It's actually one of the reasons I have this shorter muzzle device on here as well instead of my normal Surefire War Comps, because my War Comp was just a little bit too long to fit in the Commuter Sling. And when I switched out for this VG6, it works really well and just fits in there like a glove. So again, if you have other parameters that call for the rifle to be shorter than your ideal length, you have to keep those in mind and weigh those. The other big discussion comes in is ballistics, right? So obviously if a big use case for your rifle is accuracy at distance and some kind of a DMR role where you're reaching out to maybe 500-600 meters on a regular basis with that rifle, then it's going to be a little bit easier to do that with something like a 16-inch barrel versus something like a 10.5 inch. The shorter your barrel gets, the less muzzle velocity you're going to have, generally speaking, with your rifle, and it could drop as much as several hundred feet per second when we go, especially from like a 16 all the way down to a 10.5 inch. It's going to drop several hundred feet per second, which can have a big difference on how flat the round is traveling out at beyond 300 meters. So if that's a big requirement for you, I would definitely say think about having a longer barrel on your rifle. That's not to say that I can't reach out to 600 meters with my 10.5, because I can, right? That's where what optic I'm picking and that kind of thing is important, because I'm really going to need to know my holds at those distances, and the same thing with a longer gun as well. But that's more about just shooter ease of use for the shooter. In the real world, we don't always get to know exactly what our distance is and be able to range that perfectly, or we're just generally in a hurry and moving in a more fast-paced environment. And so having a flatter round is going to increase your probability of a good first round hit on target, right? And so in that case, maybe a longer barrel will be more important. If I'm really prioritizing ease of use in tight environments, having a bag gun, that kind of thing, maybe a shorter barrel is better. But if I need that accuracy at distance, I would definitely consider a longer barrel. when we're talking about ballistics, I definitely would consider not going below a 10.5. Obviously, the 5.56 round was developed for 20 plus inch barrels, and that's where you're really optimizing your velocity and sort of the accuracy of that round. But that doesn't mean that our 16 inches and our shorter barrels up to 10.5 don't work. We have various units and warfighters overseas have been using the 10.5 now for quite a few years, and they've been doing a lot of good work with that rifle, and it works pretty well. But below that, we're just losing so much velocity. I think we're not really allowing the round to work the way that it was designed to work, not only in terms of ballistics, but in terms of terminal ballistics. And so we've done a lot of research and experimentation. What happens with these rounds when we shoot through intermediate barriers, organic materials, things of that nature. And I just would strongly recommend not going below your 10.5/10.3 inch barrel lengths. But I think you're fine going down to a 10.5 if you do need that for a shorter intermediate range type rifle build. So those are some that give you an idea of some of the parameters you might have that would call for your rifle to be shorter than your ideal grip. Right? So again, for me, something like a 14.5 or a 16 allows me to grip the rifle the way that I want to. When I have my 10.5, it just requires me to bring that arm in a little bit farther than I normally would, a little bit more bend in the elbow, and so I don't control necessarily recoil quite as well as I do with my longer barrels, but it's still workable. Again, just whatever rifle you have to meet your parameters, make sure you're getting out and practicing and training with it and learning, hey, how does this rifle recoil? How do I need to grip the gun? How much pressure do I need back into the shoulder to control recoil the way that I want to? That's the big takeaway. But again, that is my main considerations for my rifle. I'm going to think first, what is my ideal grip on the rifle? Are there any parameters that call for it to be shorter? And then I'm going to figure out what barrel length is going to be the ideal length for me based upon my personal parameters and use case. Hopefully that helps, guys. If you have any other questions, feel free to drop those below. I do try to get back with you on as many of those as I possibly can. Thanks so much. We'll see you on the next one.